For those of you who haven't seen The Karate Kid, I urge you to drop what you're doing and remedy that problem immediately, because you will be rewarded with not just one of the greatest movies of the 80s, but one of the greatest films of all time, and one of the best examples of a character that has a very easily traceable arc. Daniel LaRusso was the hero every 80s kid looked up to, including myself. He was the perfect example of the human condition, persevering against all odds to do what seemed impossible just a short while ago, triumphing against the forces of evil to come out on top as a shining example of what one can accomplish when they believe in themselves, along with a little help from others who selflessly give their time, attention, and patience for the benefit of another human being. And just like E.T. made every kid who saw it beg their parents for a BMX bike, The Karate Kid inspired hordes of young boys to join their local martial arts studio. I was one of those kids. Just like Daniel, I had a problem with bullies. And just like Daniel, I took up martial arts in order to learn how to defend myself. While I only made it to Blue Belt, the local Aikido dojo in which I became a member was central in helping to ground me not only physically, but psychologically. Because in the end, fighting is a last resort, and the real lesson is that
you remember a lesson about balance?
Yeah.
A lesson not just karate only. Lesson for whole life.
And like E.T., The Karate Kid is one of the best films that showcases what a real friendship is supposed to be like. Not just catering to every whim and sucking up in order to keep the peace, but to recognize where someone can improve and challenge them to get better. Daniel doesn't understand that beating bullies isn't just a physical game, but more so a mental one. For in order to confront one's own deficiencies, one needs the mental toughness that comes with being able to persevere and eventually come out on top. There is a video that went viral not too long ago called "Daniel Was the Real Bully." When I first heard about this, the title alone made it obvious that this video was tongue-in-cheek. Surely no one in their right mind would ever believe that Daniel LaRusso was the one bullying Johnny Lawrence and his gang of aggressive, cruel, and menacing friends. And as I watched the video, my suspicions were confirmed. The author of the video was clearly playing things for laughs, creating nonsensical arguments left and right, and sometimes just making things up entirely. But the response to the video was worrying, because many people seem to take it seriously. I even remember seeing heated arguments on social media and various internet forums about the validity of the author's claims. Many of the people who agreed with the claims that Daniel was indeed the actual bully seemed to lack not only basic common sense, but also a sense of humor. The hit revisit to the Karate Kid world, Cobra Kai, seemed to take some of that nonsensical DNA and sprinkle it into the basic premise. In Cobra Kai, Johnny has devolved into a loser, while Daniel has flourished. But Cobra Kai merely takes the original idea to its logical conclusion. Many high school bullies end up worse off than the ones they were bullying. It highlights a great lesson, that appearances can be deceiving, and what makes you popular in high school is practically useless in the real world of adult responsibilities. Bullies don't realize that the things that make you desirable as an adult are not the ability to push people around who can't defend themselves, but also that certain events can have a major effect on a person's confidence. Losing their Valley tournament bout must have shaken Johnny to the core. Daniel was supposed to be a loser who sucked at karate. Being beaten by this scrawny kid in front of a huge crowd and losing his ex-girlfriend to Daniel must have been humiliating for Johnny. These kinds of moments can have a ripple effect in a person's life. In this way, Cobra Kai's basic premise actually makes sense as a continuation of the Karate Kid storyline. But with the Daniel is the Real Bully video essay, this desire for people to quote-unquote flip the script and create a whole new reality for a movie that had a very clear one already established was fascinating to me. Why were people so eager to believe the idea that Johnny was the one being persecuted and that Daniel was the real bad guy? Why are people so quick to believe something that is so obviously incorrect? Well, there are also people that believe the earth is flat in light of overwhelming evidence to the contrary. I think some people just don't trust authority and want to believe that the established order is hell-bent on hiding the truth. In The Karate Kid, it is clearly established that Daniel is the one being persecuted. Maybe it's our recent movie and television content being more focused on anti-heroes of late. Why anti-heroes? Why has the more traditional idea of the hero become so uncool and outdated? Is it because heroes simply represent too high a standard for the average person to live up to? If you're thinking that you literally need to wield a lightsaber, fight aliens, or pilot a spaceship, you'd have a point. But the basic tenets of heroic behavior are bravery, fairness, selflessness, and perseverance in the face of overwhelming odds. Are these standards simply too perfect for people to relate to anymore? Well, when you're telling a story properly, the hero doesn't start out that way. The point is that heroes and stories are supposed to evolve in order for others to relate to them. Not everyone starts out as brave, focused, determined, and empathetic, but they do have the capacity to develop those traits. Are filmmakers and storytellers catering more to people's desire to embellish their worst habits? In a world where the lowest common denominator controls the box office and viewership numbers of filmed entertainment, it is only natural to want to cater to that mindset. And in a world where many of our institutions are morally bankrupt, maybe it is easier to establish characters who follow that same ideology. That greed is good. That fear is good. That getting ahead involves not developing one's core inner strength, but incurring as much wealth and status as humanly possible. In Cobra Kai, Daniel runs a successful auto dealership. Is this the filmmaker's way of putting forth the notion that modern-day success is more about material things rather than principles? In Back to the Future, one of the immediate signs that Marty's efforts to make sure his parents' hookup in 1955 was successful was that everyone is dressed in fancier clothes, drive a luxury car, and are able to buy Marty his happiness in the form of a truck. Crispin Glover, who played George McFly, had a major problem with this plot point.
The idea of the characters being in love I thought was excellent. But I saw that if there was a kind of a financial reward where the son character cheers because he has a truck in the garage, I thought that the moral aspect ends up being that money equals happiness. Mm-hmm. And I questioned that, and that was met with a lot of hostility.
While Back to the Future's ending is iconic and well-loved, it's hard not to take Glover's concerns seriously and wonder what the moral implications of such an ending are. Does this speak to society's greater and greater reliance on exterior, monetary factors as things to aspire to? In this world, bravery, selflessness, and moral purity don't pay your rent or put your kids through college. While the Marvel Cinematic Universe has managed to keep old-school heroics flowing through cinema, these heroes are still tied to a world that doesn't really exist. Movies like The Karate Kid take place in a very relatable reality, and I think these kinds of movies end up being far more important in that regard when it comes to the promotion of certain values. In The Karate Kid, Daniel LaRusso was a hero because he never backs down from a group of bullies whose goal is to stifle and torment him at every turn. And to bring back an earlier point, Johnny is the one who is more financially well off, and yet he is seen as an undesirable. The film is clearly playing on class division as an easy way to highlight the difference between Johnny and Daniel. But Johnny's wealth is still a major factor here. He could have easily been from the same apartment complex as Daniel and still decide to pick on him, while Daniel's humble, more frugal circumstances are clearly a comment on the lack of importance money and material wealth have on a person's ultimate happiness. Johnny is wealthy, yet he is angry, aggressive, and insecure. Not the traits of a happy person. And despite Daniel's relative lack of wealth, he still manages to charm and win the heart of Allie, one of the more popular and wealthy girls in the school. Again, this is a clear ideological stance the filmmakers have taken on the importance of the inner self versus the outer material world, and that nothing in the outer world can change until you confront and deal with your inner limitations. Daniel is a hero because he manages to gain control of his outer circumstances, despite having severe limitations. Johnny is a villain because, instead of appreciating his extremely fortunate financial situation, he still manages to find ways to be angry, jealous, vindictive, and all around toxic to other people. So when all is said and done, Your status means very little when it comes to achieving balance in the game of life. If you enjoyed this video, consider hitting the like and subscribe button, as I'll be posting more content in the future. Thanks for watching.